The Allen Line Company appreciates all of the dedicated carriers it takes to move loads across the U.S. Stay safe.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Redding.
When we think of bridges, we generally think of something meant to carry people. But in California, they're building a new bridge over a major freeway for animals. I'll discuss why they're building it with Michael Como of Caltrans. A song about the life of a truck driver and his family has been released. We speak with the voice behind the song, Makenzie Phipps, about how she drew inspiration from the trucking industry to bring this song to life. And finally, it's often said that in the world of technology, things move fast. That's definitely true of autonomous vehicles, including a situation in Texas. I'll discuss that situation and some of the policy considerations that go into it with Bryce Mungen of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office. But first, the news with Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Mark. You'll be seeing a 25% increase to your unified carrier registration fee next year. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration announced the UCR fees in a final rule that published today in the Federal Register. FMCSA says this change comes after a reduction in fees of an average of 37.3% over the past 2 years. The fees for the 2025 registration year will increase above the fees for the 2024 registration year by an average of 25% overall, with varying increases between $9 and $9,000 per entity, depending on the applicable fee bracket. The final rule is based upon a recommendation from the UCR plan. According to OOIDA's Permits and Licensing Department, the Unified Carrier Registration Fee is an annual permit that most motor carriers must pay if they have an active U.S. DOT number, regardless of whether they are using that DOT number or whether it is marked interstate. To see a breakdown of the fee increases from this year to next, you can visit our website at landline.media. The window to nominate a veteran truck driver is coming to a close. You have until this Thursday to nominate someone who could receive this year's Transition Trucking Award. The mission of Transition Trucking is to revolutionize how the trucking industry recognizes military veterans. This will be the 9th year that Kenworth, Fastport, and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce's Hiring Our Heroes program have teamed up to provide one lucky nominee with a new truck. This year, Kenworth is donating a T680 truck. To nominate a veteran, you can visit transitiontrucking.org and click on the Nominate tab. It's been almost a year since Michigan's hands-free driving law went into effect. Recently, Ryan McMahon of Cambridge Mobile Telematics talked about how things have gone since the law went into place. He has been tracking data from drivers participating voluntarily to analyze statistics and driver behavior. He recently spoke about some of the key findings on the Talking Michigan Transportation podcast.
So the first month that the law was in effect, what we saw was that the amount of distraction in Michigan went down 11%. And that is a significant number. It's actually almost 12%, 11.7%. The next month, so month 2, that number increased, so that the amount of decrease increased. So the total amount went to 13.5% below what it was before the law went into effect. To give you a sense of how important that is, every 10% drop in distracted driving has a significant result on crash rates. 12%, 13% is a really important result. It's not as high as we want. It's not as high as anybody wants, but it's an important result, and it's actually better than a lot of states see in the initial days.
According to the Governor's Highway Safety Association, 34 states prohibit all drivers from using handheld cell phones while driving. A new commercial vehicle inspection station has opened near Terrace, British Columbia. BC Transportation and Infrastructure posted that the new station has advanced transportation technology to expedite the inspection process for commercial vehicles. This technology includes overheight detectors, plus automatic vehicle identification and weigh-in motion technology, which checks the height, weight, and safety credentials of registered vehicles at highway speeds without requiring them to leave the highway. Missing and underinflated tires will be detected by the new tire anomaly and classification system. There is also a handful of short-term parking spots and 10 overnight spots. Construction on this project began in 2022 and was expected to be completed later this year, but the construction company finished 6 months ahead of schedule. The Texas Department of Transportation is highlighting some of the ways it's working to prevent wrong-way drivers in the Lone Star State. In a recent post, Texas DOT says wrong-way crashes typically involve drivers that are under the influence by more than twice the legal limit. The post says since impaired drivers focus on the pavement directly in front of the car, several countermeasures have been developed with that in mind. Some of those include reflective pavement arrows, LED wrong-way flashing signs, new signs with reflective tape that are lower to the ground, radar detection modules, HD traffic cameras, and thermal sensors utilizing AI to reduce false alarms. According to the Post, in the Fort Worth area alone, more than 90% of wrong-way drivers self-corrected their actions before even getting on the highway. 3 people were injured over the weekend in Tennessee after a tractor-trailer overturned while trying to avoid an animal. According to WJHL, this caused a chain reaction. The truck that overturned was hit by another tractor-trailer on Interstate 81. The driver of the truck that overturned was injured, as were the driver and passenger in the other tractor-trailer. No charges were filed in the incident. Travel lanes were closed and traffic was backed up while crews worked to clean up the site. Arizona's Department of Transportation is taking to the skies to maintain pump stations that remove storm runoff from Phoenix area freeways. This is all in preparation for monsoon season, which typically begins mid-June. The department is now using drones to conduct safety-based maintenance inspections of more than 50 freeway pump stations in the valley. The drone will be used to check for cracks, leaks, worn parts, and other problems. This will also allow technicians to check on areas that are hard to access. Most pumps can lift more than 12,000 gallons per minute. Arizona DOT is asking drivers to secure loads and not litter along freeways because debris that collects in drains can block water flow and impact pump station systems. According to the National Weather Service, monsoon season officially runs from June 15th to September 30th. And finally, a 90-year-old Michigan man recently received an honorary high school diploma. UPI reports that Bob Bonham never made it to his high school graduation because he was drafted into the military in 1951 and fought in the Korean War. According to the article, he'd considered returning to school, but life got in the way. He had a 40-year career at a paper mill and raised 4 children. It wasn't until recently that his daughter-in-law asked him what was on his bucket list, and he said he'd wished he'd graduated high school and gone to prom. She then reached out to the school district where he'd attended, and they were able to issue him an honorary high school diploma. The school's superintendent said they were honored to give Bob his diploma, something he'd sacrificed years ago to serve his family and country. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Ashley. Congratulations to Charles E. Winborn III of Birmingham, Alabama. He's received the OOIDA Safe Driving Award for 30 years of safe, accident-free driving. That's the equivalent of a car driver going 225 years without causing a single accident. The OOIDA Safe Driving Award program is sponsored by Shell Rotella. Next, I'll discuss a bridge built for wild animals with Michael Como of Caltrans. Ashley Blackford talks with singer Makenzie Phipps about a song she's released, and Bryce Mungen of OOIDA joins us to cover the latest on autonomous technology. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Every year, 28 million people are trafficked globally. The Your Roads, Their Freedom campaign seeks to raise awareness in the transport industry. Truck and bus drivers, be vigilant on the roads. If you see something suspicious, text 233-733 or be free.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
Firestone tires are for more of everything, with more durability for more miles and more confidence in your fleet. Firestone's tested tires help fleets save with value where it matters most. Learn more at bridgestonenationalfleet.com/4moremiles.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Landline Now, welcome back.
My daddy held our lives together on 18 wheels for 18 years and countless miles from home. That old Mack truck that he would drive didn't have a radio, but that didn't stop him from singing country songs.
Country music singer Makenzie Phipps joins me now. She recently released a song called 18 Wheels. Makenzie, tell me more about this song.
Yes, so this song was written by my backup singer and guitarist, Mr. Shane Begley, and we had the opportunity of getting to go down to Louisville, Kentucky back in 2022, and we got to perform for the 50th Mid-America Trucking Show anniversary. I'd never been to Kentucky before, so that was a very exciting time. I was just so thrilled to meet new people and to be a part of the trucking community. And my PR actually was like, why don't you write a song in honor of truckers? Because there's not many songs out there that are really subjected around 18-wheelers themselves. So I had pitched the idea to Shane because he is a fantastic songwriter, and he just whipped this song up out of nowhere. We started going over it, and I thought he did an excellent job at writing the song. For those that have never heard it, it is in honor of all of our truck drivers out there, but the storyline is so emotional and just tear-jerking, and I think he really did an awesome job at conveying the story, which is of a little girl, and she's reminiscing on her father, who was a truck driver, and he's passed away, and she's kind of just looking back on all of the times where he sacrificed so much just to be able to provide for his family out there. And she was just reminiscing on everything about him getting in his truck and just remembering all the good times, hearing, you know, the diesel engine shifting gears and everything like that. So I really do think he did a very good job at conveying the story.
Now, does he have any background in trucking? Because, yeah, it's very well written, and there is so much emotion to it, like you said.
Yes, so believe it or not, he actually does not have any history of trucking, but I actually have some uncles of mine who were truck drivers. I was born and raised in a small town in Virginia called Bluefield, and surrounding Bluefield, there are a bunch of coal towns. And back in the day, I mean, Virginia and West Virginia, all of them, they thrived on coal and everything like that. And my uncles, they were always on the road all the time, being able to provide for their family and being out countless days, hours, months out of the year just to be able to provide for not only their family, but for everybody out there that relies on them for supplies. So it definitely was very emotional to me because I related to that in that sense.
I was curious, what is the process of that like, when you're given a song and you go into the recording studio? I mean, anyone who's heard this story, and I saw some of the comments on your YouTube from this song of, there's so much emotion behind it. You sing it like you've lived it. What's the process of that like when you go into the recording studio to kind of convey that?
Well, I always try to put myself into the story. And in this instance, I kind of put myself into that little girl and just trying to think of my own father being a trucker and him being away. And I know that there's so many people out there that they do have family members and friends that are away for such a long time, and they just miss them so much, and they really don't get to see them, and they talk to them on sporadic times of the day. So when I went into the studio, I really just put myself in there. I really listened to the words, and I just wanted it to come out like this was my story. Like I'm that little girl and my dad was on the road all the time. So I just try to put myself into the story the best I can in hopes that I am able to replicate it emotionally to the audience.
What has the reaction been like? What was it like at Matt's a couple years ago? And what has it been like? You put it on YouTube recently. Have you gotten some comments from trucking families?
Yes. When we performed it at Matt's, there were so many people that actually, because it's, of course, a very big event. I mean, there's so many truckers from all around the nation that come in, and they're going and mingling with people and getting to learn more about just the trucking industry and the history and everything like that. So when I was up on stage and I told them, like, this song is for y'all. Like, this is your song in honor of all of your hard work and dedication. And it just meant so much to me to have them stand there and listen to the words and really put themselves into the shoes of the song, because I mean, it's about them. And it really did touch my heart to see how much it impacted them. And they were so honored that we wrote a song for them. And I've gotten such great feedback about the song. We did post it on social media. I recently just partnered with Center Stage Magazine, and we did a fun little challenge for people out there, for them to go and tag their favorite trucker, just to show our appreciation and gratitude for all of their hard work. And we've gotten some amazing feedback, and we've gotten to see all of the people out there that have been in the trucking industry for years and years and years. And it really did touch my heart.
That's awesome. Talk to me, let's go back a little bit. Talk to me about, how did you get your start in country music, and yeah, what has it been like?
Lord. So, like I said, I was born in Virginia. I lived there my entire life up until a year ago today, actually. And I moved to Nashville, Tennessee. And it was just something that I always wanted to do. Nashville was always the city of hopes and dreams and music. And of course, when I was a little girl, I didn't know anything about Nashville. But when I was 4 years old, that's really when I started singing. My mama, she was the one that saw that I had a gift for music, and she would have me go and sing in church every Sunday. And my dad always says that there's not a day goes by that I never sing. It's just who I am as a person. It's what the Lord put me on the earth to do. And for the longest time, especially when I got into my early teenage years and kind of my late teenage years, I really hadn't decided to narrow down on a genre yet, because I just loved all music. I mean, when I did my shows, when I first started at 14 years old, I hadn't learned the guitar yet. I was just playing piano, which was a pain to carry around everywhere I went. But my shows, I would go back from Avril Lavigne to Demi Lovato to Loretta Lynn, all these different artists that really inspired me. And as I got older, I realized that I needed to find that genre that I felt fit me the best. And country just always came natural to me. I had a twang in my voice, as I've been told. And I just looked up to all of the artists out there. I mean, I adored Loretta Lynn so much. I just loved her as a person, even though I never got to meet her. But I always felt like I knew her because her music just touched me so much. And just looking at country music now, I mean, you have artists like Lainey Wilson, who's been busting her butt for years and is finally out there making it and making a name for country music. And you have Ashley McBryde and all of these other artists. So I felt like country music was definitely the place I wanted to be.
It's interesting to hear you say that, because, yeah, I've listened to a few of your songs on YouTube, and I mean, it just seems so clear as someone listening, like country, it sounds like country is your genre. And you do have a very nice twang to your voice.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
So what's it been like the past few years? You've released more songs. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so building up to me moving to Nashville, I had songs that not only Shane had written for me, that I had co-written on them with him as well, but we were trying to find that next step. And when we started kind of getting more affiliated with Nashville, that's where I met my producer at the time, which was Sal Oliveri. And he is just the nicest guy ever, insanely talented. And he's produced so many amazing artists. He's worked with Chris Stapleton and Pink and anybody that you could really imagine. And I had pitched to him some of the songs that we had been working on to see if he was even interested. And he was, thankfully. And I went in the studio with him and I recorded 6 songs, and 3 of which that he pitched to me as well. And that was so exciting, just to be able to really start feeling like I was putting my foot there into Nashville and kind of getting a glimpse of how it is in the big city. And it's definitely a lot of hard work, and Shane always reminds me it's like a mile, not a sprint, whatever it is. Like I can't remember what he always says, but I'm the kind of person where I try to do so many things so quickly, and at the end of the day, it's all in the Lord's hands, and you just got to see what he wants you to be doing at that time. And there may be things that you weren't expecting to be happening, but I just leave it all in his hands, and I go through it day by day, and I'm just very fortunate to be doing what I'm doing today.
Where do you hope to see yourself, say, in 5 years?
I love this question because I always tell people the same thing, especially individuals that are in the music scene. Of course, everybody has different goals, but I always tell people in 5 years, if I were to become a household name like Lainey Wilson or Loretta Lynn or anybody like that, I would be just fine with that. But if I am also able to be doing what I'm doing now, which is sharing my music with the world and just loving what I'm doing every week and going out and doing shows and meeting new people and spreading positivity and singing my own songs to seeing how they react and be able to live a comfortable living, that I'm just fine doing that as well. So we just got to take it day by day and see what happens.
That's a good answer. All right. Is there anything else you want to add that I may have missed?
No, I just am so honored to be talking with you today. And I really want people out there to go check out 18 Wheels. And if you have a truck driver in your life, then share them this song and just send it to them. Be like, I know you're out there for long hours of the time and you're away, but I just wanted to send this to you because I just appreciate all of your hard work. And all of my music is available out there on all streaming platforms. I'm on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, anything that you can listen to music on. So go check out 18 Wheels as well as all of my other music. And I do have a new single coming out on June 14th called Pick Your Poison. So if people want to stay tuned for that here in the next week or so, then they can go check that out. But if they want to follow me on any socials, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and my website is MakenziePhipps.com.
Lived a trucker's life in this old cold town. Truck rolling, I knew it was my best friend, was a life he lived on 18 wheels.
That was Makenzie Phipps talking about her song 18 Wheels. You can listen to the song on YouTube. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford.
A few notices we wanted to remind you about. If you live or do business in New Jersey, you have only a few more days to let the state know how you feel about the overall truck parking situation. The state DOT has launched 2 online surveys, one for short-haul drivers and one for long-haul drivers. The surveys are open through June 16th. The roughly 2-mile stretch of I-40 at the border of Tennessee and North Carolina will stay down to 1 lane in each direction at least until the end of this month, the way it's been since November of 2023. The North Carolina Department of Transportation says a construction project there has been delayed due to unforeseen circumstances. The New York State Department of Transportation has released a survey for truckers who drive on Interstate 84 in the Empire State. All responses are due by June 28th. We've got a link to access for both the survey and map at landlinenow.com. The Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration is proposing a hike in registration fees. PHMSA has said an update to the annual fees is overdue. The proposal would put the fee at $3,000 for large carriers, an increase of $425. For small carriers, the total would be $375, an increase of $125. Comments are being accepted through August 22nd. Nevada has plans to install digital signs that let truckers know how much truck parking is available at rest areas. But before that plan gets put into motion, the state wants to hear from truckers. An 18-question survey asks truckers to chime in on how they like to receive information about truck parking availability. And finally, on July 1st, Stonebridge will discontinue support for its Easy ELD product and services. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Today's rising costs affect everyone. Replace your harmonic damper with a genuine ViberTech TVD viscous damper to prevent costly repairs and downtime. Keep your money in your pocket and your truck on the road with ViberTech TVD. Recommended replacement at 500,000 miles or 15,000 hours.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off TruckStop Load Board Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2024 when you purchase Load Board Pro. Attention professional drivers, do you owe money to the IRS? Integrity Tax Relief Group frees drivers from IRS trouble. Call for help now, 855-976-4291. That's 855-976-4291.
Landline now. Welcome back. When we think of bridges, we generally think of something intended to serve people, to serve us. Whether it carries cars, a train, or foot traffic, it's pretty much about people. But in California, they're building a new bridge over a major freeway for animals, specifically the wild animals living in the Santa Monica Mountains near Los Angeles. So why are they doing this and what's involved? To find out, I called Michael Como of Caltrans, the California Department of Transportation. We're talking here about the Wallace-Annenberg Wildlife Crossing outside Los Angeles, which, as I understand it, is expected to be open in the not too far distant future. But I think a lot of folks maybe don't understand the exact thing we're talking about. Can you explain what we mean by a wildlife crossing in this context?
Sure. What we're talking about is reconnecting natural habitat that exists on both sides of the freeway. When the freeway was constructed, it became an insurmountable barrier that wildlife simply cannot cross. In fact, it's so formidable that wildlife don't even try to cross it anymore.
Okay. And why does the state see this as something that's needed in terms of infrastructure? I know that obviously it does connect those two things, but why is that a Caltrans mission in particular?
Well, the state of California and the voters of California have set policies to protect the environment, including the natural habitat and conservation work. And so we are set out on a mission to see if we can reduce wildlife impacts on future highway projects and also look at existing highways to see how we can reduce the wildlife impacts there.
How long has this been under construction? I mean, when did you start? When do you think this is going to be completed and basically open?
Construction started in April 2022. Currently, we're constructing the first stage of a two-stage process. Now, the first stage is the crossing over the freeway, Highway 101. The second stage will be relocating some huge utility lines, multiple utility lines that have to be undergrounded, and constructing a crossing over a city street, which is parallel to the freeway. Now, that work, stage two work, has not even gone out to bid yet. So we're hoping for a target date of 2026 for completion of stage two, but that's only a target date. We don't have a firm schedule since we don't even have a contractor lined up yet. So that remains to be seen.
I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about the location. We've talked about the highway, and you mentioned that, but which highway are we talking about, and how many lanes wide is it? How much traffic does it carry? Give us kind of an idea.
Yeah, this is U.S. Highway 101 in the area. It's also known as the Ventura Freeway. It's a little over 5 miles west of the Los Angeles city limits. It is in the suburban community of Agoura Hills. And at this location, Highway 101 has 4 traffic lanes in each direction. Plus, it has 1 auxiliary lane, or you might call it an entrance-exit lane. So that's a total of 10 lanes of pavement in total. Now, at this location, to cross the 10 lanes of pavement, this bridge will be 210 feet long, spanning the entire freeway. Interestingly, it also will be 174 feet wide, which would be wide enough for 5 or 6 traffic lanes in each direction if it were designed to carry vehicles over the freeway. And this is one of our very busiest freeways. On average, more than 300,000 vehicles a day total use this section of Highway 101.
You mentioned that this is near Los Angeles. It's in, I guess, one of the suburban communities there. And I think a lot of folks that maybe aren't familiar with California think of that and think, well, wouldn't this be something you'd more likely place, say, out in a national forest or out in a national park or some wilder area? But having been to Los Angeles, I know there's some wild areas there. Can you talk about that a little bit? I mean, it seems an odd place to people maybe that aren't familiar.
Yeah, if you were looking at it from a helicopter or airplane, you would be amazed to see that to the north of this location, there are miles and miles and miles of open space, natural habitat, where animals are free to roam. And it all funnels down to this point at the freeway, and then like an hourglass that gets narrow at the middle, as soon as you cross to the south side of the freeway, it starts to widen up again to many miles of open space. This is the Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area, which is home to dozens of kinds of wildlife, mountain lions, coyotes, bobcats. There are dozens of species of endangered and threatened animals here, animals and plants here in the Santa Monica Mountains, making it one of the locations with some of the highest numbers of endangered and threatened life. So it is the last place along the 101 freeway where a crossing could be built, for the reason that it is the last place along the 101 where there's natural open space on both sides of the freeway. Anywhere else along the 101 going into Los Angeles or even going northwest into Ventura County, you're going to find factories, stores, homes, all kinds of structures all along the freeway. So this is it. This is the last spot.
What is the success record of similar wildlife crossings in other places? I'm just assuming that you all have studied that before you went ahead with the project, but especially in terms of how they protect wildlife, how effective are they?
A recent study was published showing that at other wildlife crossings, including some in Canada and some in the United States, when wildlife fencing was placed along the freeway to funnel animals to the crossing, that combination, which is the same combination that will be done here, in other locations, it's shown to have a success rate of 85% to 97% success in reducing wildlife vehicle collisions. And I do want to say that at this location, reducing wildlife vehicle collisions is expected, but it is not the major focus. The major focus is reconnecting native habitat. Now, what we know will happen is once the crossing is constructed, wildlife fencing will be constructed on both sides of the freeway in both directions for a considerable distance. And this is not just simple chain link fencing. It even goes down into the ground a couple of feet, and it's very tall fencing. So the effect is it funnels the animals to the crossing. Plus, there's the additional factor that we know animals have been trying for years to cross the highway at this location because of tracking collars that scientists have put on animals. We see over and over, they approach the freeway, they look back and forth trying to find a place to cross, they turn around and they go back in the other direction. And this happens on both sides of the freeway. The reason it's important to take note of this is because unless new wildlife can come south into the Santa Monica Mountains, we're going to continue to see birth defects and genetic problems with the animals that live in the Santa Monica Mountains. It's going to lead to the loss of the mountain lions within our lifetimes, and it's also going to damage it's going to damage other wildlife, and it has already shown genetic results, perceptible genetic differences in the animals on one side of the freeway versus the other.
Something else that strikes me about this, it would also seem to be something that would be very successful at protecting the motoring public. Wildlife collisions can be very damaging to vehicles and even dangerous to people's lives. Is that part of the calculation in setting this up? And if so, I'm assuming that the success rate in terms of preventing those collisions and protecting the motorists would be similar to your figures for how it protects wildlife.
The interesting detail here is we anticipate that this will have beneficial effects for both motorists and wildlife, but not nearly on the scale that we have seen at other locations where we have more animal wildlife collisions, and where we are, Caltrans is making some retrofitting changes so that drainage culverts under highways can be used by more animals to cross. We've had dramatic success at a very affordable price in building ramps and other similar things at some of these drainages under freeways, under highways. In some cases, we're looking at how we can also do this under freeways to reduce animal wildlife collisions. So we're really working on it at multiple locations. This particular freeway is such a barrier that we've had fewer animals trying to cross here.
Okay. Give us an idea, if you would, of how much this is going to cost. And has the state performed a cost-benefit analysis in terms of this crossing?
Probably the most important thing to be aware of is more than half of the money for this crossing is private money, private donations. It wasn't public money. It didn't come from the state of California. Some state money has been provided for this, but it's money from conservation, including wildlife conservation funds and habitat conservation funds. These were approved by the state. In some instances, they were approved by voters in elections. So that's the money that came to Caltrans. No highway construction money came to build this bridge. No highway funds are being diverted for this project. Now, the research that went into it was conducted by scientists who have been studying mountain lions and bobcats and other animals in the Santa Monica Mountains for more than 20 years. And they have indicated that this is the way, the very best way, the most logically successful way to allow more wildlife to cross the freeways and to restore the health of the gene pool and the long-term stability of the animals. In terms of a cost-benefit analysis for Caltrans, Caltrans, to the best of my knowledge, did not conduct that, but we have reviewed all of the evidence, all of the research that's gone into this to see if this would be a worthwhile way to tie up our state employees. And the answer is yes. It clearly is going to work. The need is there. The direction from the state of California is to go ahead and do this because this is a rare, even unique opportunity. It's not too late to reconnect the wildlife on both sides of the freeway.
That was Michael Como of Caltrans, the California Department of Transportation, talking about the Wallace-Annenberg Wildlife Crossing outside Los Angeles. We'll be back in a moment with more news and information. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Penske owns and operates some of the best-maintained vehicles on the planet. Our used trucks come with a 5-year maintenance report and pre-sale inspection. So if you're in the market for a top-quality pre-owned truck, look no further. Search our inventory today at PenskeUsedTrucks.com.
Control your toll costs and eliminate tolling headaches with Prepass Tolls. Prepass Tolls means toll volume discounts. Just one invoice for all tolls and fewer violations. Call 877-878-5970 or go to Prepass.com.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now, welcome back. It's often said that in the world of technology, things move fast. What's new and exciting today could be outdated and no longer useful tomorrow. One area where things are developing very fast is autonomous vehicles, both cars and trucks. That includes a situation in Texas where trucks are about to go fully autonomous. Here to discuss the situation and some of the policy considerations that go into it is Bryce Mungen of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office. Bryce, how are you doing?
Mark, I'm good. How about yourself?
Very well, thank you. Let's kind of start out before we get into the weeds a little bit here. Could you please explain what is happening in Texas? What is happening in terms of these autonomous trucks specifically?
Yes, so both Kodiak Robotics and Aurora Innovation are preparing and working to deploy fully autonomous trucks by the end of this year. So they've been testing deliveries down there, testing out the technology, and you know, like they've been saying all along, their goal is to deliver driverless trucks.
Now, there's a lot of concerns about this, and I'm wondering if you can kind of go over some of the major areas of concern, kind of looking at this broadly. Because, boy, there's a lot to talk about in terms of concerns. But let's start kind of at a high level and talk about overall, specifically as it applies to the situation in Texas.
Yeah, the big concern is that it's really kind of a little bit of a black box as far as what's going on with these technologies. Certainly, there are some very minimal reporting requirements in place, but by and large, it's hard to know exactly how these technologies are performing. So right now, NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, requires companies operating AVs to disclose crashes, but beyond that, it's tough to know exactly what these technologies are doing. And I think one of the things that sticks out to me, and I think probably sticks out to a lot of listeners, is that, you know, these companies like to highlight the number of miles that have been driven and how few crashes have happened in these miles. Kodiak said that they've recorded 3 million miles of real world operations with their technology, say they've only had 3 incidents. So again, in some ways, maybe to people who are not in the industry, that sounds like a really great benchmark, but for others who have been in the industry and know that there's drivers with millions of miles of safe driving, with millions of miles of accident-free driving, certainly it's an impressive feat to have a truck that can go out there and do that. But when you're talking about unleashing this technology, putting it out on the roads full time, that leaves a lot of unanswered questions. So really it gets back again to there's these high-level numbers that are put out. You hear about the reportable crashes, but beyond that, it's tough to know exactly what's going on. And our frustration remains that there's just not enough insight and a lack of oversight from the government on this.
We've seen some real problems involving autonomous cars, and obviously those cars are driving a lot more miles than the trucks because there's simply more of them and more companies and so on. But I'm wondering, are there specific differences in terms of the technology and its level of development between these cars and these trucks? Why is it that we're seeing so much confidence in these significantly larger vehicles?
Yeah, you know, it's hard to say. I think you bring up a good point, something that I was going to mention too. You know, for as skeptical as we are about the deployment of driverless heavy-duty trucks, it does seem that their approach is still more cautious than what we've seen with autonomous technology in passenger cars, or things that aren't even really autonomous technology in passenger cars, but still are kind of sometimes talked about it that way. I think one of the biggest differences, and one of the reasons for confidence from the heavy duty truck side, is that the operational areas, when you're talking about operating on limited access highways, it's much different than passenger vehicles that are operating everywhere out on the road. So it's a lot easier to control for all these other variables, just a lot more oversight generally into the operation. So I think for that reason, that's why we're seeing more confidence on the heavy duty side of this. Over on the passenger side, you also have just kind of a wide range. You have things like Waymo on one end of the spectrum, where they seem to at least try to be having a little more oversight and doing things a little more carefully. And then you have Tesla that's going out there, has full self-driving mode, but at the same time, in the fine print of when you're operating it says this does not actually make the vehicle autonomous, and you must use additional caution and remain attentive. So even the AV passenger car companies have kind of distanced themselves from Tesla when they're talking about these technologies. But I think that speaks just to the wider variation that you have on the passenger vehicle side.
It seems to me like there's an assumption with the trucks that I don't know if it's borne out in facts. In fact, I don't think it is. But early on, I saw a lot of press about these autonomous companies saying, well, trucks just drive on limited access highways, like you said, interstates, freeways. But of course, the bulk of truck traffic is happening on smaller 2-lane roads. Are they still operating on this assumption that everything is a freeway?
I don't know. It's tough to know exactly. I think their thinking into this situation is kind of brought out in one of the things that they've said recently, is that they believe, I believe it's Aurora here that has said that they're 95% of the way complete to deploying autonomous vehicles. So 95% sounds like a lot of the way, and that could be for a heavy duty truck. That's a lot of the highway miles, the long distance miles, things like that. But as you mentioned, when you're getting off the highway into more difficult situations, more traffic, different kind of cars, different kinds of people, bicyclists, pedestrians, all that sort of stuff, that last 5% is really important. So I think they're kind of glossing over a little bit some of those last challenges they're going to encounter in that 5%.
You talked a moment ago about Tesla. We've actually had some recent incidents involving, one specifically involving a Tesla operating in that self-driving mode. And although they put a warning on that, they are calling it, I believe their term is full self-driving mode. What happened in that, and what does it tell us about the state of self-driving at this point?
Yeah, and so this is something I think we've heard about in the past, too, where you have a Tesla that it's in self-driving mode crashing into a parked emergency response vehicle. So there was an officer that had stopped, was investigating or taking care of a previous crash where actually a motorcyclist had been killed, and someone had their Tesla in full self-driving mode. The driver of the Tesla was on their cell phone. The officer saw the Tesla coming at them, or at least the car coming at them at a high rate of speed, didn't see them stopping. Officer get out of the way, and sure enough, the Tesla crashes right into the patrol vehicle. So this, unfortunately is a little bit predictable because we've heard about these things before, heard somewhat about the difficulties that Tesla's technology can have in identifying stopped objects on the road, especially emergency response vehicles. So this is just another data point that clearly they still haven't fixed that problem.
Well, and of course, Waymo, I think you mentioned earlier, they in fact recalled some of their vehicles because they kept running into stationary poles, like light poles and such.
Yeah, that one made me chuckle a little bit because they described the situation, and in documents they filed with NHTSA, they said that the vehicles or the software, whatever at the time, had an insufficient ability to avoid pole or pole-like permanent objects within the drivable surface, which may result in an increased risk of collision. They kind of described it as, I guess the technology didn't assign a high enough damage score to poles, so the cars didn't see it as much of a threat. It's a little bit concerning. That's where they still are with this. But in all seriousness, it makes you wonder, how is all of this stuff working on the back end? What sort of threat assessment are they assigning to different objects for different situations. And I think that's kind of a point to, we're still probably a long way from this if these types of scenarios are still coming out.
Well, Bryce, we could talk about this for a long time here, and certainly there's a lot more to say and a lot more to cover, but I'm sure we'll talk about it in the future. In the meanwhile, thank you very much for all the information.
Yep, sure, this won't be the last time. Thank you.
I've been talking with Bryce Mungen of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office, and as we always say, folks, this is an important national issue. Call your members of Congress. You can do that through the U.S. Capitol switchboard at 202-224-3121. That's our program for today. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Capital Reman is your leading source for quality remanufactured engines and components. Capital Reman stands ready to serve all OOIDA members to help reduce costly engine repairs or replacement. Visit capitalreman.com today and use code OOIDA10 to save.
Get the most power performance out of your rig with Howe's Diesel Defender. It provides maximum lubricity and contains specialized IDX4 detergent to clean and prevent deposits and safely removes harmful water. Visit HowesProducts.com for more information.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife,
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
my kids,
chrome, and I am
a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us! Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.